Brazilians are in London in force, one, to watch the Olympics, and two, to take the Olympic spirit home with them. But the real baggage that they will carry around with them is more of a Euro crisis flavour. Alexandre Tombini is Brazil's central bank governor and joins me now. Governor, many thanks for talking with Reuters. Let me start with that. How frustrated are you by the response from governments and policymakers here in Europe to this crisis?
Well, I think the crisis has been with us for a couple of years now, the second phase of the crisis, I should say. Our expectations is it would take time for this sort of fiscal burden to dissipate. I think it's fair to say that important moves have been made. For instance, the whole issue about the funding of European banks has been addressed at the end of 2011, the beginning of this year, so the mechanisms are there.
Is it enough though? How confident are you that they will get on top of this problem?
Well, we have the issue of the capitalization of the financial system, which is a more structural issue, and I think in that respect also the idea of providing funds to recapitalize banking system in European countries is also an important move. Now, of course, there are still pending details on this issue, how this is going to proceed, whether directly to the financial system or towards or through the sovereign. The idea is that it goes to directly to the financial systems themselves, so this is an important issue that will break the linkage between sovereign debt burden and the problems in the financial sector. So we are expecting that those issues should be resolved in the short run, so that the situation can improve.
So I guess what I'm trying to get is a sense of how are you feeling more optimistic now than you were 6 months ago, or less optimistic?
The Brazilian Central Bank has communicated in its decision-making process that the recent initiatives in Europe, the funding in the beginning of the year, the end of last year, and the capitalization issue of the financial systems has produced, in our view, has diminished the probability of an extreme event from taking place. So there are the instruments there, and how to apply them, that is the issue. But I think progress has been made, and our assessment is the probability of an event. It's lower today, although the situation is fluid, of course, but the probability has being lowered compared to 6 months ago.
Is the global economic situation, in your view, scarier now than it has ever been?
Well, the global economic situation, from our standpoint, is an economy which grows less than the historical trend. So for a couple of years from now, still. So this is not a very bright scenario for the global economy, so it's lower growth on the one hand. And also high levels of volatility will be around with us during this period. So this is the scenario that we work as a background for policy implementation in Brazil.
As governor of the Central Bank of Brazil, what do you worry more about? Do you worry more about the crisis in Europe, as we've talked about? Do you worry more about the US falling off a fiscal cliff, or China and a hard landing there?
Well, I think Europe is still the major issue. I think progress has been made, but still I think it's the major issue as far as global developments are concerned today. I think there is the issue that you alluded to, the fiscal cliff, but something has to be done between now and the end of the year so that this does not come through.
Do we need another round of QE in the US?
Well, I don't know. This is up to the authorities there to say. Well, I think Brazil now is more prepared to endure any sort of spillovers from monetary policy elsewhere, because now we have lower interest rate, the cost of capital is lower. So the kind of problems we had in the early 2011 are not there with us this time around in terms of potential spillovers. But I think you also talk about China. Our view with respect to China is it's capable of engineering a soft landing, has the power, the instruments, so we don't see anything different from that as we speak.
Are external scenarios the main drivers, would you say, of monetary policy at home for you?
Well, they play a role, of course, It was important. I mean, Brazil is living through a typical business cycle. We had too much growth in 2010. We had to slow down the economy. We put together a number of policies to tighten demand conditions, monetary, credit, fiscal policy. We engineered a slowdown, but then it came the aggravation of the international environment in July, August last year. So we have to reverse course quite swiftly to prevent the economy from decelerating much further than we had engineered. So I think it played a role there, but now I think Brazil is capable in this cyclical recovery that we are experiencing now to go with its own feet and engineering this recovery as we move forward throughout 2012.
Can the markets expect any guidance from you on when this rate cutting cycle will end?
Well, I think we have provided a lot of guidance in terms of where we are, what we have done so far. I think still we have a situation where the economy is picking up. We will see more growth in the second quarter. We will see annualized growth at 4% rate throughout the second half of the year. This is not only the central bank's view, also the IMF and markets, to be fair. But then let's see. I mean, everything will have to do with our inflation projections in the short run, and then we have to weigh the various risks that are still with us.
But the era of double-digit rates, is that over?
Well, Brazil, of course, we have a structural story in Brazil. We have converged in many things, including in terms of the policy rates. We have greater convergence today than we had a few years ago. But we haven't done away with the monetary cycles. Of course, monetary cycles are with us, will remain with us. So in the future, we will be we will be tightening policies, we will be easing policies. But it's fair to say we will be in a different threshold that we used to be, the double-digit world of basic policy rates.
Governor Tombini, many thanks for talking with us today.
My pleasure, Axel.
Alexandra Tombini, Governor of Brazil's Central Bank. That's it from me. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.